Howdy, YouTube! We are watching, I don't know who SmithPlays Pokemon is. I assume they're good because they're doing a 12 Obscure Secrets in Gen 2 Pokemon. Now, I love Gen 2, so if I don't know any of these, I'm going to be very excited. Give them a like. We might subscribe. I think I did already subscribe. I pre-subscribe to everyone I watch a video to, and then they have to lose my subscription for there instead of earning my subscription. I feel like everyone deserves the subscription right out the gate, but if you lose the subscription, that's a big deal, and you should look at yourself. You should be disappointed in yourself for not keeping my subscription. All right, watch it. 12 Obscure Secrets in Gen 2 Pokemon. My favorite generation.
Bugsy has two unevolved Pokemon? How is it that the failed Mew clone Ditto can be found in the Johto wild? Today we're looking at 12 obscure but very real theories in Gen 2 Pokemon.
Theories?
So Bugsy is often laughed at for being a supposed bug.
This is secrets, not theories. I don't want theories. I want I wanted to learn things about the games, not hear what people think are happening.
Who didn't evolve his Metapodic Kakuna when they hit level 10. I always assumed this decision was made to ensure that he wasn't too hard for the early game. It's possible this is part of the reason, but it turns out that this decision was also meant for a research project. The guide in the Azalea Gym mentions that Bugsy's knowledge of bug Pokemon is quite serious, so it's then pretty reasonable to assume he would know when the two Cocoon Pokemon evolve. There's even a trainer in here who has a Beedrill, so it's not like Cocoon evolutions would be outside his realm of knowledge. But what really ties this theory all together is in Bugsy's opening speech, he mentions that he's doing some pretty intensive research. And if you think about it, really the only thing interesting about the Caterpie and Weedle line is that they're one of the few families that lose level up moves on evolution. Caterpie and Weedle learn a damaging move plus string shots, but their evolution's Metapodic Kakuna exclusively no harden. So with that knowledge, it seems like Bugsy must be postponing the evolution to see if they can learn any more moves via level up. So while he still may be a bad gym leader, it's possible Bugsy isn't stupid, but just as dedicated to his studies as we are to our subscribers. We're next going to look.
Well, they still have attacks,
Make
though.
sure to watch to the end for the crazy Ditto theory. Now, what's interesting about Jasmine is she is Johto's other leader to feature a team with unevolved Pokemon. Her Magnemites are level 30, and they should have actually just evolved into Magneton. And it turns out that what I thought was just
why wouldn't you?
Feature actually has a reasonable explanation. So as it turns out, Jasmine actually just caught these Magnemites. So if you search for Gen 2 Johto and Kanto, you'll only find Magnemites around level 15, and this doesn't help explain why Jasmine's evolved. But we know that Gen 2 is a sequel to Gen 1, however, and more specifically, Gen 2 is most likely tied to Pokemon Yellow.
So did she catch them in Kanto? Is that what he's saying? She caught her Magnemite in Kanto?
We'll go a bit deeper into that later, but for now, just assume this is true. Now, what's so crazy about this is if you go back to Pokemon Yellow and head into the power plant, you can actually find Magnemite at level 30. What's even crazy...
Okay, so Jasmine caught her I like this theory. This is a good theory. This is a nice theory. That means she traveled. She said she just caught them, so she probably caught them in Kanto. I guess she came back from Kanto. Hopefully she had a nice time.
Here is Jasmine mentions that Steel type was only recently discovered. So it's possible that Jasmine may have been involved in the power plant cleanup and just recently caught those two Magnemites. What's even crazier to think is that maybe it was one of those two Magnemites that was holding a metal coat, and this is how she got her Steel.
Okay, see, that's interesting. It goes a little further. Do they hold that in the wild in Gen 2? Can I thief one off of one of them in Gen 2? Hold on. In the grass and the power plant, are they holding metal coats? I assume it's like a 5% chance for them to hold a metal coat.
Now, it's possible that this was all coincidence, but there really is part of me that hopes that this was just phenomenal intentional game design. But while we're on the topic of Steelix...
Honestly, that does work. Like, but why would she have an Onyx if she has Steel type? Although well, Ampharos isn't really hers. It does the Lighthouse. But why would she have an Onyx to begin with? Like, she didn't know it was going to turn into a Steelix if she just happened to find out about a... Because there's no wild Steelix.
Ever wondered what Jasmine's team used to look like? Well, the above theory actually holds even more weight, because it turns out Jasmine used to be a rock-type trainer. There's a man in the Olivine Lighthouse who mentions this, and it clearly checks out since she doesn't have, say, the previous type Caesar.
I do not remember that guy. Hold on. Wait, then why did she catch Magnemite if she was a rock? Hold on. Why did she catch a Magnemite if she was a rock-type trainer?
No, instead, the only hint that she once used rock types is her Steelix, which would have once been an Onyx. Now, Lance is the trainer that raises some red flags, but this case in the other direction, with his 3 under-leveled Dragonites. The main reason for this team...
should not be Dragonite until level 50. He's got 3 levels before he should have that. Granted, there are Pokemon who are well under level that you can catch fully, like, evolved. Like in the first generation games, there's a level, I want to say, what level is it? It's 9, maybe 10 Pidgeotto in Viridian Forest.
Structure was simply to make the champion fight harder in a region with pretty low levels. But despite the necessity, people have still tried to find ways to explain this odd team structure. Now, a lot of people will suggest to not worry about the...
Yeah, Aerodactyl's not even a dragon. I don't know what's doing that. Oh, but Gyarados is also technically not a dragon, but it is a dragon. It's a dragon, not dragon. Aerodactyl, I don't think I'd count that as a dragon. It's a dinosaur, but it ain't a dragon. That means we'd also have to count Aurora's. I'm forgetting the name. The ice rock dinosaur. We have to count that, and we have to count. Technically, that one does turn into a dragon. Cranidos, though, does not. Bastiodon is not a dragon either.
9-level decrease from his Gen 1 team, and just look at the big picture and say, oh, Lance evolved his other 2 Dragonairs. Now, this is probably the best explanation, but you really do have to ignore the level factor, and so for that reason, I don't love it. Now, another fun theory pushed is that during his time in Johto that we see him, Lance was actually training separate Dragonairs, and it's possible that these evolved early due to the rocket signal at the Lake of Rage.
You know what? That's a fair point. I kind of like that theory. It actually does work out.
Fan of the idea that Lance is a hacker. See, what's really interesting is Lance's Aerodactyl knows Rock Slide. It turns out the only way to get an Aerodactyl with Rock Slide outside of playing Pokemon Crystal Legacy is to hack. Now, one trainer that simply has a ton of mystery surrounding them is Kirk. Known in the game files as Mania, this is not the ball maker, but the character that the rival steals his second Pokemon.
Yeah, the ball maker is Kurt.
This is the guy in Cianwood who is so distraught about the whole thing that he ends up giving you a Shuckle, which is a super rare Pokemon that can't be acquired in the game any other way, and that is my red flag number 1. It goes further, because between the fight in Burn Tower and the next one in the Goldenrod Underground, the only addition to Silver's team is a Sneasel.
Which you can't catch until post-game, I believe.
Silver would not have had surf access until beating Morty. We can confirm that Silver stole Kirk's Sneasel. And when you think in the original storyline of Gold and Silver, Sneasel was only accessible in the Mount Silver entrance.
Yeah, post Elite Four.
The same Mount Silver entrance that is only available to trainers who have all 8 badges of Kanto. And this raises a lot of questions as to who this Kirk guy really is. Speaking
he's got to be a good trainer if he got 8 badges and like went to Mount Silver and then caught a Sneasel. Although I don't know how you'd be able to. How do you get something stolen from you by a weaker trainer who doesn't have 8 badges?
Silver, it's the most restricted area between the 2 regions. Only players with all 8 badges have access to this area.
Maybe it didn't used to be restrictive whenever he could go there and get that Sneasel.
But the 3 people that we see actually access it in Gen 2 are Red, the player, and the celebrity there who gives you Steel Wing. Now, first of all, I found it really satisfying to realize that this is the same lady who gives you Fly in Gen 1.
Is it?
Road. Basically, Red blew her cover in Gen 1, and this made her seek a place even more remote. Question I have, though, is how did she get here? There's just so much mystery behind this decision. Both her bribes are solid flying-type moves.
I never knew that was the same lady who gives you Fly.
It's a place where very strong Pokemon exist, requires access to cut, and oh gee, I don't know, what's that, 8 Kanto badges? Now, it's certainly possible that this girl was just able to pull some strings because she's famous.
Maybe she used Fly and flew there, and there was nothing they could do about it.
But I don't know. To me, she's ringing some alarm bells. Now, this would probably also be a good time to talk about the many pieces of lore that surround Red. Now, it's my personal belief that the Red we see in Gen 2 is the continuation of the Yellow storyline. And this is mainly because his team lines up so well with what he would have used. He would have started with a Pikachu, then encountered the 3 starters, and finally picked up one of the 2
See, that makes sense.
Kanto,
yeah,
which,
I
by
get
the way,
that.
Is the reason there's only 1 in Kanto when you go there in Gen 2. So I think the most likely...
Oh, is there? I kind of never noticed that either. By the time I get to Kanto, I'm just like kind of zoned out because you just burn through Kanto so fast.
Reality for the Gen 2 universe is that we're seeing the Red from Yellow and not Red and Blue. But despite my personal belief, there are actually some other equally valid theories surrounding Red's lore. One other theory that I really like...
Yeah, when we play through Gen 1, we're probably going to do Yellow. Not because of the starters, because Slowpoke is in Yellow. And I think Slowpoke is only in Blue?
Concludes a different outcome based on Blue's Gen 2 team. It asserts that Gen 2 follows Pokemon Red and Blue rather than Yellow, as the character Blue uses his teams from the games Red and Blue. The Blue's team lines up almost perfectly to his...
Okay, that's a great,
Is champion
well-rounded
in those
team.
games, while the yellow team is not only missing the evolution, but also Sandslash, Ninetales, Magneton, and Cloyster. There is another really cool part of this theory, though. The explanation for Red's team is then explained that Red borrows the other two starters from Professor Oak in Blue
Borrows?
so that he can be strong enough to brave Mount Silver. Now, there's not really any evidence to suggest
I feel like if you have 8 badges, you don't need to be brave to go to Mount Silver. You kind of already proved you were strong enough to handle it.
this last piece, but I do think Blue's team structure in Gen 2 is worth analyzing, and this is a good explanation. It also helps explain why the starter ball is also missing from Oak's lab when you visit it. Now, I personally think an easier explanation is that Blue is just a great trainer and caught many different Pokemon, but
Yeah.
I still do love this as a secondary possible explanation. Now, one
I mean, think about it. You can't catch Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur anywhere in Kanto, but Oak has them. Where did he get them? I'm sure you can figure out how to get them yourself, Red. He probably traveled a lot, too.
theory that I recently connected the pieces for surround Cherry Grove, and this is a mystery that has dated back to my childhood. When entering the town's Poké Center, a body of water can be seen momentarily. A lot of people would argue this was just an aesthetic choice, but as a kid, I always wanted to know what was up there. And this piece of water has eluded me for 2 decades until very recently. See, if we go back to the beta files of Gen 2, we can tell that the design of Cherry Grove was once going to be put where Azalea Town is. Previously,
Okay.
the cave didn't exist, and the area at the bottom of Route 32 was another town that would have been right next to Azalea. And this design shows how it would have fit into the bottom of 32.
I
with the
don't
ocean
like
being
that as
down
much as the
into
way it is
To
now.
figure out this mystery, we must first place the Cherry Grove design onto where Azalea Town was supposed to fit in the old map. And if we do so, we can actually see that that small meandering part of the ocean actually lines up perfectly with the top of the Cherry Grove design. And this tells us that that little piece of water we see in Cherry Grove in the final version of Crystal, that's actually just a remnant from the beta map of Gen 2. Now, another little known map design secret can be found in Goldenrod City. So the whole west coast is inaccessible ocean, but just next to the radio tower, there is a fence. And it turns out the entire coast of Goldenrod was previously going to be accessible. And the original design of Johto was going
I
to
see a
be the whole
bridge.
island
Where was that going?
accessible from this point. This was only removed when Cyanwood was later added. After learning this, I always thought it would be really neat to travel to the water from Goldenrod, and it's actually something we're considering for future legacy updates. But speaking of travel near
Okay, you can
Goldenrod,
put a
our
mod in
final
the game to make it so that you can actually do that.
theory today is perhaps my favorite of them all, and it surrounds Ditto. Now, most of you will know the theory that Ditto is supposed to be a failed clone of Mew. This is supported by the fact that it's the only other Pokemon which can learn Transform and has the same base and shiny color palette. Now, in Pokemon Yellow, Ditto can only be found in the Cinnabar Mansion and Cerulean Cave, which is precisely where the lore behind Mew and Mewtwo reside around. Specifically, Mew was cloned into Mewtwo in the mansion and then went to reside in Cerulean Cave. Now, I always assumed the theory was found there. What is so crazy to me is the level of detail the developers had when designing Johto. We can see that the only location Ditto can be found in Johto is Route 34 and 35, which are above and below Goldenrod. And Goldenrod just happens to be the one place in Johto that has a direct route to Kanto via the Magnet Train. So it would seem then that Ditto was dragged into Saffron City by Red, Blue, or another trainer, or possibly even just disguised itself and went onto the train on its own. From here, it was able to make its way to Goldenrod City sometime over the years.
Okay,
between
that's-
Gen 1 and
that's
2,
cool
and
now
made
that I
a
think
new
about
home
it.
on the routes near Goldenrod. Sometimes Gen 2 can feel a little poorly designed, but it's details like that that make it my favorite entry. Feel a little poorly.
Well, no,
the
like,
routes near Goldenrod.
but there's also the boat that comes here, so why wouldn't it be around here also? I'm sure it could have gotten on the boat. That's just me, though.
Sometimes Gen 2 can feel a little poorly designed, but it's details like that that make it my favorite entry in the series. Have
What,
you ever
wait,
wondered-
what is Kanto's gym problem? Hold on.
Step into Wix Studio.
No,
and handle
you can't
every
make me,
part of your
lady.
build from one platform.
Okay, that was
Matt?
some interesting stuff. I thought we were going to learn secrets. I don't know anything about...
Have you ever wondered why
I
Bugsy
thought we were
has
going to
two
learn secrets.
unevolved
I didn't
Pokemon?
think we were going to
How is it that
learn because it says 12 obscure secrets, not fan theories. So that was a little disappointing. But some of it did make me think, though. The Ditto thing made me think. I did not know that the lady who gives you Steel Wing is also the lady who teaches you Fly. That's pretty daggum cool. I wonder if this is also... I'm going to put that on Save to Watch later. Yeah. Oh, this was fun, though. It did make me think about some things I didn't think about before. I learned some things. We laughed. We cried. We got disappointed at the beginning, though. Leave a comment down below. What do you think was the best theory for this? And do you think any of these... I feel like... Wait, is that supposed to be a theory that the girl who gives you Steel Wing is Fly? Because I feel like the theory was how she got there. But honestly, she gives you Fly, so she could just fly anywhere she wants to go. We're restricted, but that doesn't mean she is. But leave me a comment. Let me know. Did you learn something today? Is there something that made you think, oh my God, I can't believe that that's true? That's obviously true. You know, it's nice learning these things. I wish that they were secrets that we might not have known about Gen 2 instead of theories, but I'll take what I can get. You know, little Pokemon never hurt anybody. All right. I love you, babies. Thanks for watching with me. Leave a like and or comment. Apparently, you don't count as a viewer unless you do that now. You need to engage with the video to be a viewer, and that's really stupid, YouTube. Very stupid. Catch me on twitch.tv/MPlayTheJolly. I'm trying to hit 500 followers before my birthday. I'd really appreciate every follow counts. At 200 followers, we're doing an art giveaway. Among some other things, though, but like, that's a community thing. Just hop in and see if you like me. All right, catch you later. Stay safe, stay hydrated. Take care of yourself, and take care of somebody else. Happy Sunday. Mwah.